Good morning, I'm Joshua Reeves, and I'm here for Leader to Leader. Leader to Leader is a podcast which focuses on all things leadership, inspiring others, growing our youth, and focusing on the importance of good communication. And with us today is Sarah Doherty. Sarah, would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure, thanks for having me. My name's Sarah Doherty. I'm the Vice President of Strategy for GBA. I have a long work history, not on the AE side, but on the public administration side. I worked for 2 cities in the Johnson County metro area and came to GBA about 2 years ago to kind of lend some assistance in the whole municipal realm, and worked my way into the strategy position and help aligning our company strategy with the holding company strategy and our day-to-day operations.
Awesome. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I couldn't help but notice that you have on Chiefs Red today, and it happens to be a Monday morning that we're filming.
Monday morning victory.
Is there any significance? Was there anything big that happened yesterday?
Oh, just a back-to-back Super Bowl win.
Back-to-back
Not that big
Super
of a deal,
Bowls.
but
Okay.
you know.
Only happens every couple decades.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, are you ready to jump in?
Absolutely.
Okay, let me see what my first question is. So, when we think about leadership and focus on leadership and communication, what is the difference between your public background and now you're on the private side? Is leadership different from public to private?
You know, I love this question because it really made me kind of stop and pause. And it's not. You know, after almost 30 years on the public sector side and now on the private side, you know, what you're looking for from leaders, whether it's public or private, is not only, you know, the ability to lead people, but to empower people, to engage with people, to communicate, you know, to lift them up, to help them see what they don't see in themselves. You know, you want that from everybody in your work organization, and definitely from those maybe at the higher portions of the organization chart. All that is so important, whether you're spending taxpayer dollars or, you know, working, constructing or consulting for clients. And, you know, that is what is a real big motivator for me. It's part of the reason why I chose GBA, just because I felt like I could be closer to that leadership and benefit from that. Whereas, you know, maybe in a bigger organization, you're so much further away from a lot of that, that you don't get to see the day-to-day and experience that. But, you know, I think they're very much the same. It's, you know, you want somebody that has a vision and a passion for what they do, and you want somebody that really is able to kind of walk their talk.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Leadership is the same across the board.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're spot on when you said, depending on the size of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my experience has been that the bigger the organization, the more isolated or pocketed different leadership styles, cultures, those kinds of things
Sure.
are. So, yeah, that's a great answer, and I kind of assumed that it would be that case because people are people, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're
Right.
going to be the same no matter what they're doing. Next question. So, as you think about your leadership experience over the years, what stands out as either one of your most positive experiences or one of your most negative experiences, and how did that influence you?
Well, unfortunately, my list of maybe didn't go so well was much longer than my went so well. But, you know, I do.
You're not alone.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But reflecting on that, you know, I think those were the experiences I really learned the most from. So hopefully that's why they're sticking in my mind. You know, I had a situation where someone on my team, you know, at the city where I worked at, we did performance evaluations.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So, you know, it was either the difference between, she was kind of on the fence. Is she strategic or she exceeds? And I, in my true to form self, I was like, well, you know, you can always do better. So,
Oh, yeah.
so
Guilty of that.
I defaulted to the exceeds. and started to go through the whole evaluation process, and she didn't agree with it, and she told me so, and we had a couple long conversations about it. And it wasn't that she convinced me. What she did, I felt like she felt comfortable enough with me to say, you know what, okay, but I don't agree with you here, and here's why I think I should be strategic. And the bottom line is, she was right. She was absolutely right, and I was wrong. And it taught me a really good lesson. First of all, maybe manage my expectations a little.
Yeah.
And I think in fairness to her, I knew that she could be even more. And so was kind of like, all right, well, this will be, let's keep pushing her, and she can be more, and she can, she has the ability to do things that I think she has the ability to do things that she doesn't even realize yet. And that just was a tactic that worked well for her. And it was a really good lesson, because I needed to adjust to the people on my team and understand them better, and understand, what motivators were, what demotivators were, and it was a humbling experience for sure.
Absolutely.
I think we've talked about it. You and I are pretty similar. It's like, we don't like to be wrong and make mistakes, but man, we make them every day, right? She taught me more through that process, and still proud of her to this day for like even having the courage to say, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're right.
I can relate to that. One of my key players I've worked with for 15 years, and it took 14 years before he came to me and said, your style isn't working anymore. What worked when I was younger doesn't work now. And I'm paraphrasing, of course, but changing our perspective as leaders to the individual is really important, but also understanding the individuals we're trying to lead, and what motivates them, and what inspires them, and how they, for me, it's more along the lines even of how do they communicate, and how am I communicating?
Yep.
And am I hitting the target, or am I going right over their head? And that's so difficult to evaluate. So I'm right there with you on that example. That's a great one. Next question. Okay, this one's a fun one for me. I like this one. We're kind of in a title-driven world. Society really kind of pins us down on, who you are is your title and what you do. So how do you feel about titles as it applies to leadership, and does that really mean anything, or how do you feel about that? Am I making my answer asking the question?
Yeah, I totally get what you're asking, and this is a subject that I really like as well. I had the opportunity to go through several different programs, high performing organization, leadership at all levels, which really gave me a different lens to look through in terms of what leadership is and what it isn't. And, it's not a title. And I think, you're absolutely right. We live in this title-driven world, but we all can immediately, they pop into your mind that maybe has a leadership title that there's no way that they're a leader, or that you would consider them someone that you'd want to take, learn from, or anything, or that type of thing. I think it's interesting to me, like leadership, how it's evolved over the last, couple hundred years. I think, you think about like the car industry. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it was had the top level, they made all the decisions, everybody else came in, they made their widget, they went out, there was no discussion about like what could be more efficient or more effective, or, and honestly, I would say like in some respects, leadership was almost, squelched. It wasn't, you're at the line, you're not a leader, and then we kind of, I think we've morphed to more of, that leadership at all levels. You have some folks in my mind that, they are darn happy being the best field inspector that they can be.
Sure.
And we need those people, right?
Absolutely.
And we need
Absolutely.
those people to lead crews. We need those people to, teach the younger folks how to not only handle the mechanics of it, but also, how do you handle situations? How do you interact with customers or clients? I think we've got to get away from this whole idea of leadership team means like the top tier executives and that type of thing, because we're really doing ourselves a disservice. If we don't cultivate that idea that we can all be leaders regardless of what title we hold or where we sit in the organization, then we're not getting people ready to take our positions.
Absolutely.
We're not getting them ready to lead the organization. And again, that's at all levels.
Yeah.
We need all that.
We go through an exercise that I facilitate because I think really well on a whiteboard. So I facilitate this exercise on a whiteboard with teammates that helps them recognize if they're a doer and they're really interested in doing the work, the risk management, the financial components of our business, that part of it, or if they're more interested in the people side as we look at their day-to-day tasks and the things they do. And it's really enlightening to see people come to the conclusion that, oh, I really like doing the work. I'm not crazy about all the nuances that go with people. And that's really clarifying to them to say, maybe leadership isn't what I'm thinking it is. So that's a great story. I love your analogy of the manufacturing world because that's their expectation, right? You come in, you make your widgets, and you go home, and here's your paycheck on Friday, and thank you.
Right.
So that's a great analogy. How about we have a little fun?
Sure.
Okay. So I always like to do a couple fun questions because I'm ornery. If you had to discern a leadership experience or a leadership moment from a funny meme, what would the meme be?
Yeah, gotta go right to that one. Oh, so my all-time favorite, and I think the quote itself is awesome. The quote is, "I look a challenge in the eye and wink." So the what sticks with me, and we've talked about our backgrounds.
Sure.
Hopefully, my mother won't see this, but it's a nun with her legs crossed, and her legs are shown. And if you have any familiarity with the Catholic religion, they don't show their legs. They show this little piece of their face. These legs shown, and she's smoking a cigarette, and that's the quote. I mean, it's such an oxymoron, but it is awesome. I mean, it really is. It's just, and I think what I really like about it is, again, about my mother, talking. From what I understand, I have been like that my entire life. If it's like, if you're gonna, you say no, you can't have that. Oh yeah, you wanna bet? I'll climb that cabinet and get up there and get it, or whatever it is. So, we're faced with challenges all the time, and I've always tried to like flip it around to challenges or opportunities, right?
Sure.
And I've also had several times in my life where I've been like, okay, with the opportunities, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm up to here with opportunities. But that's sometimes what you have to do is really kind of, pull your
skirt up.
Yep, exactly. I was going to say, and let's go,
So your rebellious spirit reminds me of Gretchen Rubin, who's an author that I'm a fan of, and she has a personality quiz, and I'd be curious to see if you rank as a rebel under her personality quiz. So I'll have to show you that afterward. Okay, so the next question I have for you is, and I know you and I have shared our love of animals. If you had to point out a leadership scenario and apply it to an animal, something you've been through, you can apply it to an animal, what would that be?
This is a crazy one, but I love elephants, and they are honestly, they're fascinating. They are, besides being funny on Instagram or memes or whatever, they're just fascinating.
They're really smart, aren't they?
Very intelligent.
I don't know that much about them.
Very courageous. So I think what fascinates me the most is they're one of the few animal herds that they're a matriarch. They're led by the matriarch.
Okay.
So typically it's the patriarch. So it's really the strongest, oldest, smartest female that's leading her group, and it is all about the group. They're very altruistic. If they sense danger, the big ones circle and basically kind of like a wagon.
Oh yeah,
circle of wagons.
Yeah.
Circle the elephants. I grew up in a single family led by my mother, very strong woman. Several points in our lives, worked 3 jobs to try to get us through private school. And, I think that really resonates with me. She was kind of a look, challenge in the eye and wink gal. But I think the other thing is what I really like is there's this one Instagram that the herd is, they're trying to walk across the street or the dirt road, and there's lots of traffic, and the matriarch gets out there, she stops traffic, everybody else goes by, and then basically afterwards she kind of looks like she waves to the cars, and then she walks off. And I like that a lot because that's what I want to be. I want to be the person that helps others remove barriers, exceed their expectations of themselves, and just help them along, and just be that help, and let me help you cross the road so you continue to progress and get to a better place in life, or where the watering hole or whatever it is. I just really like that a lot.
That's a great analogy. I really like that. And it dawned on me as you were talking about elephants being a matriarchal society, and you said there's very few like that. I would almost say, based on how you were raised, how I was raised, there's a lot of similarities with human beings. The matriarchal, strong female leaders, they're around. There's a lot of them. So anyway, Sarah, I really appreciate you joining us today. It was a great conversation, and I look forward to many years of working together.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet. And we will see you next time on Leader to Leader. Thank you.